I think we are overdue for some carnage, and when I want to tear down an engine that is hurt in a real bad way, my normal go-to is, of course, Subaru. But we tore down a Subaru CVT last week, and I don't want to give you guys the impression that I don't like Subarus. I would never want that. So a close second in that department would be, of course, BMW with their infamous N63 hot V twin turbo V8. And I believe this one will deliver on the promise of carnage because of the way it looks on the outside. I can tell it's going to be bad on the inside. So first, I will show you the good side. I would call the good side bad, but it's not as bad as the bad side. The bad side has user-installed inspection ports for that extra crankcase ventilation. This is the first generation of BMW's N63 hot V twin turbo V8, and it makes 400 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque when it runs right, which at this point is seldom. This is one of the least reliable BMWs that you can spend your hard-earned money on. And every time I say that or talk about N63s being total garbage, I'm of course referring to the first generation. There are several generations after called the TU engines or technical update, and BMW did fix most of the issues with these engines. There is a reason why you haven't seen one of those on my stand, and that's because the cores are hellaciously expensive, and I just haven't had the chance to get one for a reasonable price. They are better engines though. Now this particular example came out of a 2012 BMW 550i GT all-wheel drive with 141,000 miles on it, which is probably close to a world record. Now unfortunately for that car, this engine's demise meant the demise for the vehicle because the amount of labor, just the amount of labor you'd spend to replace an engine if you were gifted a brand new one would far exceed the value of that car, and it was ultimately scrapped because the engine let go. The first thing I want to do is see if this engine turns over. Now, I received this engine with a flex plate and an unbolted torque converter, which tells me it should turn over, albeit probably not well, so let's see how this feels. No? That seems a little springy, and that's all my bar there. Let's go the other way. Oh, it moved a little bit. Ah, see? We fixed it. That sounded great. Let's keep going. I think it's got problems inside. The next first thing I'd like to do is pull the plug. Let's get these coils out of the way. Okay. Well, it was fine until it wasn't. This plug has been mutilated by a piston. We're going to find some malice in the combustion palace today. The rest of these surprisingly look okay. It's just one, and it's not even on a cylinder that I expected to have problems. Next, we're going to remove the water to air intercoolers. This has a lot of new looking parts on it, like these hoses here. Someone's been into this thing, which is pretty standard for the miles. As you can see, this engine was removed with the utmost care. Oh, we're leaking coolant. Someone's definitely been in here. This coolant hose is new. The oil drain back, that all looks like it's been replaced. It might have newer turbos on it. It looks like they peeled the labels off of them, so I can't see what the date code is on them. All right, looks like these turbos are about ready to remove. There's one. Wow, that is stuck on the oil drain. I don't know if I have anything that's going to be able to help us here. Maybe this. Yeah, blue to the rescue. So the turbos are definitely original. I say that because that's a 2012 date code. They look great. They don't have a ton of play. Wheels don't hit the housings. They spin freely. I do sell these, but they're hardly worth anything. It does look like someone's had them off, but I don't believe that these turbos have been replaced. Let's continue stripping the valley. So now I think we're going to have to remove this brand new hose here to get this out. We're going to see if we can do that without. Yeah. Let's get these exhaust manifolds unbolted. Let's go ahead and remove this cover. Huh. I don't see any holes in here. This is where they like to leak oil. This is the oil drain back block. This one looks wet, but it doesn't look like it's super leaky. So it's at least been done once. Next, we're going to remove the left side intake manifold and fuel rail. Oh, okay. A bracket up here at the front. Perfect. Let's take a look up these intake ports. I said up for a reason. Man, look at them oil boogers in there. That one looks like it's a little bit suspicious, that right valve. But so much deposit. These engines really need, all the early DI BMW engines and many others too, need a walnut blasting periodically. On to the right side. Looking at these intake ports, golly, those valves look terrible. I don't see anything bent or smashed, but then if you just glance down at the block, it's hatching. And that really stinks. That oil pan is cracked. That's a $450, $500 oil pan, and it's ruined now. Just trying to get this side cleaned up a little bit. While we're in the area, let's get this vacuum pump removed.
These kind of suck.
Go ahead and remove the boost control solenoids. Time to unbolt the left-hand valve cover. Give it some taps. That works too. Well, it's not awful. There's the high pressure fuel pump roller lifter. That looks okay. The chain is present. The timing guide intact, at least the top bridge guide is. That doesn't look awful. So this looks pretty good in here. There's not a ton of varnish. The worst thing I see is some metal transfer on a few of the cam lobes. It's not a huge cause for concern, but it's also not perfect. I look down here and the chain guide is intact. Now the color of this plastic tells me that these likely have not been done, which for 140,000 miles, that's impressive, super impressive. Onto the right side valve cover. Well, this side looks even better because there's less metal transfer on the cams. All the guides look good. They're present down here and here. I can see even the little finger on the end of that one is still there, which is astonishing to me. Those are almost always stuck in the oil pickup. But this one looks good so far. Looks like they did their oil changes on time too. Now it's time to remove the water pump, which is unfortunately has been ruined in a shipping disaster. It was gone too soon. And I may need to get the crank pulley out of the way first. In fact, I'm pretty sure I do, so we're going to work on that next. These bolts are really tight, so I don't know if this little guy is going to get it done, but... Ha. Come on. It's moving. Or the whole crank is. All right, let's get the big guy. If this doesn't do it, we're gonna have to get it hot. Yeah. That is a big bolt. Oh, these usually just come right off. Oh, I see why they broke it. It's an access. I think you can do the water pump without removing that, but I got it out anyway. Let's go ahead and get the water pump off. Oh, we're still stuck on this new hose. What are we gonna do about this new hose? I mean, somebody probably paid a lot of money to replace that. Now, unfortunately, it did look like it was a good water pump. There's no signs it was leaking, but the pulley is not a replaceable unit. So this water pump, unfortunately, is junk. I'm going to go ahead and pull the vanos solenoids out of both banks so we can see if they've collected any bearing material. So, surprisingly, the vanos solenoids are free of debris. They look good. We're going to pull these covers off next. Looking inside the upper timing arena, it looks really clean. I mean, this is probably one of the nicer looking N63s I've torn down if you just ignore what the block looks like. This thing is fine. Now, the right way to do this is to start pulling the heads, pull the cam gears, have access to these bolts from the top. But I do things the wrong way on this channel, almost exclusively. Maybe not exclusively wrong, but I am going to remove the lower timing cover without taking the heads off. You're not supposed to do that, but I'm going to do something you're not supposed to do. Let's get the timing cover bolts removed. Okay, that one's gonna be a little more challenging. I've given up on that for now, just because when I remove this cover, there's going to be a guide here that's gonna mess the chain up. We won't be able to see how the timing of the engine looks anyway, which is what my whole intent was. So now I'm gonna remove the chain tensioners from here and the other bank, and we'll get the cylinder heads off. Ooh, violent. Well, that's stuck. It's fine. We'll just go to the other side and forget that happened. That one was good. Let's go ahead and unbolt the cam gears. Let's unbolt this guide. And then there's a pin. So these should be able to walk off now. That one should come off pretty easily. There's one vanos gear and the other. We're just going to let that chain hang out there. You can see the guide. It's still present, which is astonishing. Now it is time to cram the cam cramps loose so we can pull the cramshafts. So this looks good in here. This is probably the nicest one that I've torn down in a long time. At least in the normal areas where I see damage, I see none. All of the rockers, all the rollers feel good. All the journals look nice. There's no big pools of varnish or sludge. This looks nice and clean. And to answer your question where the injectors went, when this engine first came in, I pulled the injectors out of it because I send them all off now to get tested since they're so problematic, and it's cheaper for me to do them a whole bunch at once than just one set at a time. So, yeah, I don't really know. There's the most surprising part. That tip, the tip's always gone. No surprises here. Everything looks excellent. There's very little wear to note. I mean, these all look really nice. A little bit of scratches on that one, but for these, this looks excellent, especially for an engine that's been so well ventilated. Before we go get the big head bolts out, I've got one right here. It's much easier with the cam gear out of the way. Sometimes you can crack these loose and use your fingers. Other times they have Loctite. Let's go ahead and crack the head bolts loose. Come here. All right, let's rip this head off. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All the bolts are out, so there we go. Oh, you know what? There's some hose that's keeping us together here. I'm gonna leave it precariously propped up, relieve this hose of its duties. Oh, that one is pretty bad. Well, the head gasket, that's in good shape. This is the most complete display of every example that you can see when you pull a cylinder head off of an engine, and I still have one to go. So we have our piston delete with a full serving of piston nuggets and holes in the bore created by the invincible wrist pin. Moving right along, we have cylinder 2, which has struck the cylinder head as if the rod bearings do not exist anymore. Then we go to cylinder 3. We have a cracked piston that is shaving itself along the sides of the bore with heavy bore damage. And then we have cylinder 4, which looks fine, but it is completely filled with engine sauce of unknown origins. Well, obviously, it's from itself, and there's some skirt wear there. What a collection. The cylinder head is, ooh, that's bad. Look at how much damage it did to the threads for the spark plug. They're like hanging out. Another big dent there. Move a cylinder over. There's definitely signs that the piston struck the head. And then these two, which appear to be somewhat normal. I don't see any cracks or any damage, but it doesn't matter because this head is bound for the scrap bin. Let's repeat for this head. The first step is going to be to remove the bridge chain guide here. And then should be able to get these cam gears out of the way here. There's one. There's the other. I just got to get the chain off of it. It's very stuck. What's this thing stuck on? There we go. Just had to use a little persuasion there. That one isn't so strong. One bolt before we get to the big head bolts. And the pin for the upper chain guide. It is now time to cram the cam cramps loose on this bank, the left hand or driver's side in North America and other places. All right, let's zippy doo-dah these out. Very similar to the other side. This head looks excellent on this part. Now, the real question is going to be, is this side worse than the other when I get the head off? That remains to be seen. Let's go look at the cams real quick. Well, these look great. There's a little bit of transfer, as we noted when we had the valve covers off, on some of the cam lobes on this bank. But I really wouldn't be too concerned. I bet that stuff would come off pretty easily with a little bit of muriatic acid, causing no damage to the actual cams themselves. Let's crack these head bolts loose, shall we? Well, I'm going to use old blue here to break the seal. Is it better? Is it worse? It looks more better. The head gasket got some engine goo on it, but it's fine. Looks great. You're drooling a little bit here. Well, I can say right off the bat, this is a market improvement. Even though it's still not good, it's still better because there are 4 pistons in their bores. Even if they're facing the wrong way, it's fine. Lots of wear on the cylinder walls. Again, this rod and piston clearly struck the cylinder head There's even little imprints of valves. And this one, there we go. This one seems to have rotated. And it is also cracked. It's hard to see the crack in it. There you go. You can kind of see it between the two valve reliefs. That's bad. This one looks fine. It was just gooey. Now the cylinder head, actually, believe it or not, Ripley, it looks fine. There is an imprint from hitting the head, and the valves are probably going to need attention. I would have to put an injector and a plug in here to see if it's sealed. But the real problem here is that N63 heads don't really have a ton of value. Even if this head was perfect, it's almost not worth listing in our inventory system. It's just, I don't get calls for them. If there's a person that needs a head for an N63, they throw the car away or they put an engine in it foolishly. Either way, this thing seemed to have survived the ordeal, and it might be the only thing to have survived what happened to this poor engine. So no, I didn't forget to do science. I just wanted to do both banks at the same time. Now, let's see how she does. Unexpected! I did not expect that to happen. Also unexpected. It's either fine or it's not. Interesting. Before someone calls me out, yes, I soaked up all of the engine juice from this cylinder because that could skew the results of this test and might make a mess too. So we're going to go backwards. We're going to go back to front. I'm feeling a little risky. Ouch. What is going on here? Wait a second here. Something is not right. And then, wait a minute. There's one piston nugget. What else we got in here? Oh, I can't get the rest of it out. It's attached to, I can grab it by its rings, but that's not the polite thing to do. This is what just happened. So this is, I guess only in a Jeep if I had this happen before. That's interesting. It will not compress, but it rotates. Now we're going to pry this front timing cover off. It should be fine. Everything's going to be just fine. As long as I got all the bolts out, that is. Oh, weird stuff's falling. Okay. So there's the timing cover, which I have never sold in my entire life, and I've parted out probably 50 of these engines. And the timing system. Now, unfortunately, I broke this guide pole in the cylinder head. I know. I don't like ruining good parts, you know. It's a travesty. But the rest of this actually looks fairly okay. I mean, there's not a ton of wear here. Oh no. I've been debating as to how I was going to take the next step, because normally I don't like to rotate engines upside down when they have a full blast basket of sorts. And in this case, I know that there's going to be a lot of junk in the oil pan on this thing. So I'm going to turn it kind of on its side until the last few bolts. And I'll get the last couple bolts with it upright. But the pan doesn't have lips on it. It's just a flat pan. So it's going to rain down engine components like its job. So I'm going to just do one of these numbers. Ooh, that sounded bad. Oh, it's leaking coolant, but I got a bunch of pig mat down, so it's okay. It sounds like a cash register. Let's zip some pan bolts out and see what it looks like. I'm using air for this because these usually have Loctite on them. Pan has a hole in it right there. So those all came out pretty suspiciously easy. Normally they take a lot more effort than that. So I'm not sure what we're going to find, but it did just drop this out of the open hole. That's a mutilated end of a rod cap bolt. This is going to be fun. a lot of fun. I don't know how to catch all this stuff, but we're going to do our best. Try to see what happens here. Use the electric for now. Oh yeah, we're loose. Well, this is stupendous. That is another broken rod cap bolt that matches wherever the head of the other one. There it is. That's what fell out of the hole in the side of the block. But over here, another rod cap bolt. A lot of aluminum. That's a rod bearing, and they're not normally shaped. Another rod bearing. Ooh, that's a bad rod bearing. Now they're all bad, of course. There's another circlip. There's the finer gravelly, the powdery stuff is up here. Large chunks down here. This looks like that is not a rod bearing. That's the bushing that goes around the wrist pin in the piston. So we're gonna get this cleaned off and take a better look, I guess. This is what we're looking at here. We have, this is what fell out of the engine. We have two rod cap bolts severed. We have two of these units, which are reshaped rod bearings in relatively okay shape. I mean, there's some wear here, but this is way too early in the teardown to be showing you that. I don't know what all this other stuff is. I mean, I do. These are the wrist pin circlips. There's some rings. The copper colored stuff that you see here, that's the bushing for the small end of the rod. It's right here, just broken into multiple pieces. This is the biggest indicator of what has happened to this poor engine. I say poor engine, I don't feel bad for it. This is a heavily worn rod bearing. And well, now all that's left to figure out is just how bad the rest of this is. Now inside the pan, we have the finer glitter towards the top and towards the bottom on this screen. We've got our larger sections. Those are not lilies, that's antifreeze. This is not Lake N63, although you could call it that. And now I'm stuck with a dilemma because, yeah, we got some carnage out of it, but there's still a lot more in this pan, I promise you, just because of the shape of the oil pan and the way the oil pump is. So I think I'm just going to rotate this over and hope it doesn't rain a bunch of parts. I might take this apart while it's on its side and then flip it back over for its final bolt. Let's see if it makes any more cash register sounds. A little bit. Oh, man. It's bad in there. Well, let's just take a peek, because there's all sorts of parts where they're not supposed to be. Like that. And that. And that. Oh, and don't forget that. What are we going to find behind this oil pump and behind this pan? But I do need to get the oil filter out of the way. That's next. We'll get the filter out, and then we'll get all these bolts zipped out, and then I'll roll it back over for the final couple bolts. I think we also have to take this off. The pickup has to come off, which there's some debris in here, but it's not loaded. All right, first, let's get the oil filter. If there is one in here, let's get it removed. See, it's gonna make a mess. I don't really care. Got plenty of pig mat underneath this engine. Ooh, sparkles. Actually looks like relatively clean oil. Let's get to zipping. That's part of a connecting rod that just liberated itself. Oh, that one doesn't attach to anything. What is this? That looks like part of a piston. All right, well, I'm gonna leave one bolt in it. Get these out. Hopefully this broken off one doesn't cause a problem. We're going to rotate this back over. We're leaking a bunch of Earl. There we are. Oh, it's raining all kinds of stuff. That's part of an engine. Final pan bolt. What happens now? Oh, there's part of a piston. It won't stop. I didn't even get that all the way up there.
Oh, bad.
Well, that was the trigger, my finger. Oh man, this is horrendous. Well, this is what came out when the pan dropped. Also this large piston nugget. We saw that one already. And then here's the condition of the upper pan. Silly me thinking I get a good sellable upper pan out of this. I mean, as soon as I looked at it with my eyeballs, I knew the pan was broken, which is unfortunate because that is a high ticket item. Oh man, the damage is pretty bad, but let's see what the bottom side of the block looks like now. All right, let's just get it over with. Yep, there's parts missing and jammed into places. Wow. Caramba, that is incredible. This one's hurt. This one definitely is the more you look, the worse it gets. I'll show you. I am going to show you some things that you may not have seen before. Even watching this channel, I don't even know where to start. So let's start at the front. This is the cylinder that deleted a piston. And that is no surprise there. Lots of impact marks. Let's go to the first pair of ridiculous. So this is the one that rotated, and it was just, there's just no bearing left at all. It's gone. The shell's just missing, vanished. It's actually in many small pieces in the lower oil pan. And then this rod is just completely snapped off. This was the one that was a surprise. And then it gets crazy. Here, let me get let's put some light on the situation. I'll shed it here. That is incredible. It like smashed through the oil return. And then this part's just sheared off. That rod is twisted. The piston is turned. And then this one, which is probably the other half of this, is crammed into the side of the block, almost to where the block, that section, I mean, I bet I could take a little ball peen and just knock that section out. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then I don't know this one. I don't understand this. I understand everything else, but how does that get there? That must have happened while this thing was being moved around after it was removed from the car. But my oh my, this one is impressive. So can I? Oh, that goes over here to that one. See if this will take this off. It's probably the other way. Yeah, I totally ruined it. Look at the smoke coming off of that. I ruined this oil pump that no one should ever reuse. Let's get you unbolted. Come on, let go. Oh, we're leaking a bunch of oil again. And look at that bearing material. I think we're going to take this apart now. Let's zip this thing into pieces. It's definitely not our last resort. That doesn't go there. We're leaking. Ooh, see, that's not good. There's a lot of damage in this one. A lot of scratches. Ooh, it's grindy feeling. I wanted to get this out with the surrounding part, whatever that part is actually called. And I don't know how to do that. Well, we can just go like this. That worked. I did not expect it to work, but it sure did. Ugh. That feels gritty. Well, look at the color of this thing. It's been a long time since we've seen Malice in the Pressure Palace, but this is bad. And then the damage, it's like this was moving back and forth. Let's take this all the way apart. I mean, you can see the sparkles in the oil coming out. Let's see if we can get these out. Oh, yeah. If this would focus, that'd be amazing. Look at the when's the last time we saw this much damage of an oil pump? I mean, what are they feeding this thing? This thing, the coloring is just amazing. They're not this color. They're not supposed to be this color. That's definitely an owner modification. Yeah, this is bad. I'm actually impressed. Most of the time when I pull oil pumps apart on really shredded engines, the pump looks reusable. This is definitely not the case. There's some more damage to the oil pump. You could just see how much debris went through this. Now we're going to start removing what is left of the rods and pistons. This is going to be an easier job than normal or harder. I'm not sure yet. First, we're going to do the one with the piston delete. Didn't expect that to happen. I mean, I did. That's not good. Still fits, still works. Now we're going to try to do the unthinkable and rotate this thing over. I have my doubts. Oh, it moves. Oh, it moves actually a decent amount. Oh, cool. We fixed it. Oh, I ruined it again. We're going to try to hammer the socket onto that one and take that one out the conventional way. Just got to think positive thoughts here. That is not a positive thought. I don't know if this is going to be enough traction to get this out, but we're going to try. Oh, yes. Ooh, that's warm. Now this one, I'm having extreme doubt that we're going to be able to get this apart just because of the way it is. It's just really mutilated, deformed, but I'm not giving up hope. That might be enough. I think we're getting to get this one. Yeah. Ooh. Oh. That's stubby. All right, this is the problem now, I think. It's not so much the 2/3 of a rod, it's the other rod that's hitting the piston because it's all the way down in the bore. Probably because of our scientific test. It's fine. We're just going to kind of see if we can't push this a little further up, see if that crank will turn after we do that. This may be a little more challenging than I thought. I'm not going to ruin it, guys. I'm being careful. Insert punch, strike. How is this so stuck? It makes no sense. Well, that just moved. I wonder if we can pry on some things. Oh yeah, look at that. We can go backwards. It's making popping noises. Look at that. Okay, we can't take that out yet because we can't go out of order. We're going to get this unit out right here. Now that I believe we can rotate this over, let's give it a shot. Look at that. Let's see, can we get this? Nope, both of those are going to need hammer time. And it's gone forever. Oh, success. Wow. All right, let's go ahead and turn the crank over and get the final two survivors out of this thing. Oh, it still feels really bad. Oh no, what was that? Oh, that's just the chain. The chain's getting bound up in there and it's okay. Time to unbolt the main caps. There's a process to this. Now this bolt is a little deformed from the incident. Just want to make sure we can get the socket on it just fine. And with that, I think we've removed our final bolt. Actually, that's not true. I got to unbolt the engine from the stand. That one just like fell out. Now I know what you're thinking. This is dangerous. Unbolting the engine stand? Nah, it's fine. We've done this a whole bunch of times. I don't know if that makes it better. Just like so. Leave that in there, and I think we can probably, we can. The main plate is out. All that's left is to pluck that crankshaft out. After what it went through, I'm kind of surprised it's in one piece. If we lift it up, it should release that main cap, or not. And the crank is out. There's a lot to talk about here. Let's start with the rod bearings. They're not great. They never look great from these engines. Obviously, these are completely destroyed. These are in tiny little pieces in the upper oil or lower oil pan, and this is what they start to do. They start to chunk out. These were kicked out of this one when this thing shattered. You can see that rod and piston are destroyed. The wild thing here, this is what I think is crazy. It broke the top of this connecting rod, which there's the bushing. I was able to put almost all this back together here. There's our circlips. That's the oil squirter. There's our wrist pin, which is ready to reinstall into pretty much any other engine. The piston nuggets, there's two large pieces, some small pieces. There's the complete, most of the complete bushing that goes between the wrist pin and the top of the rod. And then if you look, there's a little curvature there. It's natural. Most of these look pretty good as far as the rods. I mean, they're all beat up, but Pistons are all really rough. And keep in mind, when this blows up, it usually throws debris throughout all kinds of parts of the engine, sucks in a bunch of metal. This one is very destroyed. I believe this is the order of how the bolts went. I looked at the length of all of them and compared. I found pretty much every single piece, but if you notice, this one's missing, which I'll show you that in a minute. All of these have chunks missing out of them, but look at those rings. This thing was chugging oil. Obviously this piston, this has seen some slightly better days, and it's cracked. It's really terrible. The rod looks okay, but other pieces got in the way, and probably it was this one here. So this is the sliver that fits this connecting rod, which is also horrifically twisted. By the way, if anybody wants any of this stuff for like a desk ornament or a cool shifter, just let me know. I'll leave her email in the video description. This piston's got a chunk taken out of it, but again, oil rings completely clogged. These two are the only, well, I shouldn't say only, but these are the best two looking rods out of here, the best two looking pistons, which I still would not reinstall. These are still in pretty terrible condition. The main bearings all look pretty decent. Now there's a little bit of damage here. You can kind of see, but it's really nothing like the rod bearings. The crankshaft, I mean, this is the thing that dealt so many bad blows. I mean, there's huge marks, but it all started with this journal right here. And I really don't know why this one was the one that let go. This isn't like a Kia or Hyundai engine where it's always number 3. It's totally random what blows up, but what probably happened is this thing blew up at idle in the drive-thru or doing 110 miles an hour down the highway, and at high RPM under load with boost, there's a lot of rotating inertia, and as this stuff starts to fail, as that one rod bearing over here, this one that's vanished, there developed a bunch of play in this area. There's a large amount of gap between the connecting rod and the crankshaft because the bearing is gone and so is oil pressure. So it shatters that, and then it launched these pieces in the way of all of the others, and that's why we saw the level of damage that we did inside of this engine. The rest of the crank looks fine. Of course, there's impact marks in pretty much every part of this crank. Let me flip this thing over. Here's a better look, and then this is a very heavy piece. Look at the damage to that journal there. Yep, that's a cool piece, but it's going in the scrap bin. Well, you guys remember how we had a piece of this missing? Well, it is very embedded into the block. So now we're going to try to extract that, because if I go to scrap this and there's a large chunk of iron in here, they're not going to like it. They're going to try to give me breakage. We can't do that. We have to see what this looks like. First, we try blue. Yeah. Wow. Absolute destruction. So now we can complete our autopsy here. This goes here. This went through. That doesn't fit anymore. That's how that was, kind of. That's the best I could come up with. Or maybe this goes... This definitely broke like this. I am really impressed with how complete this is, yet how destroyed it is. So, looking at the bores, it turns out that the hole here, that piece of the bore is now in the coolant jacket, and it does not want to let go. I can't get that out, I'm sorry. I want to know what that looks like, but we just have to guess. There was a war going on in this cylinder because there is a ton of damage. You go to its neighbor, lots and lots of bore damage here. Look at the bottom damage. None of these are good. 0 of these look any kind of good. Let's go to the other bank. I think this side is better. Can you really say that? This looks terrible too. There's not holes in the bore, so you've got that going for you. First, I would like to mention that the damage to the lower oil pan is not what led to this engine's demise. This damage probably occurred when the place I bought the engine from gently removed it and set it on the ground. There was no undercarriage damage to this car, so that oil pan was damaged at the time of removal. Now, why did this engine actually fail? Well, most N63s, not all, but most of them fail relating to the rod bearings and oiling system, which seems to be a somewhat common trend amongst some BMW engines. And I see a lot of N63s with spun and destroyed rod bearings. And in the case of this engine, I have no reason to suspect that this engine was not maintained. The plugs looked pretty good when they weren't destroyed by a piston. There was very little, if any, varnish, no oil deposits. I will say that the oil control rings look terrible in this engine, which it probably did burn oil because that's what they do. This thing probably had not had the heads off yet. Now, anytime you disrupt the oiling circuit on any of this generation BMW and later, you are supposed to bleed the air out of the system. And there are tools for this, and there's a procedure for this, but if you don't, you risk destroying the rod bearings. I've seen several N63s and N62s even that got the valve stem seals replaced, which is a common failure point, only to spin a rod bearing on the test drive after the car was put back together, which is why when you take your vehicle, if you own an N63 non-TU, you poor souls, and you take it to a dealership to diagnose this oil consumption issue, they usually try to sell you an engine because the chances of that new engine spinning a rod bearing are a lot lower. I'm sure that this had some warning signs. This isn't one of those cases where the engine ran perfectly smooth and all of a sudden it just made a little noise and shut off and then some warning lights came on. This was loud. There were warning lights, warning signs, sounds. It probably shook the vehicle, but I will say late model BMWs, especially an F07 or an F01, any of these vehicles with N63s, they have great motor mounts, great sound deadening and insulation. You are really secluded from what goes on outside of the cabin of the car, including what's in the engine bay. Now, if you are a little hard of hearing, your fingers are numb, and you're blind, which you probably shouldn't be driving, I could see how something like this could just happen. In any event, this engine was not the worst N63 that we've torn down. This is totally destroyed, and it is still nowhere near as bad as the N63 I tore down, not the previous one, but the one before that, I think. I've torn down a few of these, and that says a lot. This is destroyed rods, pistons. I mean, the bore had a hole in it. This one was really bad, and it still wasn't the worst. And I do think that there is some relation to the amount of power and cylinders and the amount of damage when people continue to try to drive with the engine failing. So this engine is pretty much all scrap. I've got a set of cams, one cylinder head, some turbos that probably aren't worth a whole bunch, and I already sold the injectors, most of the injectors out of it, the good ones. But if you do need index 11s or 12s for your N54, or if you need any parts out of this, or you want anything for your desk, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I don't want you to think that BMW never made a good V8, because they definitely did. And there'll be some videos on these cars coming out soon after I finish the Trans Am. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.